Have you ever thought you might become the victim of political murder? This family in Africa back in 1960 hadn't.
Being the victim of political murder can mean the end of a human life and endless mourning.
So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Just a few hours later, a telescopic sight was aimed at Martin Luther King. Racist hatred put a violent end to his life. Shortly after leaving this motel apartment in Memphis, Tennessee, he was murdered by a white sniper. Somebody shot down the hope of millions.
Martin stood here and I stood here. He was leaning over the railing. I said, "Come on, guys, let's go." Only when I moved about 4 or 5 steps, I turned to walk away, and the shot rang out.
Who killed Martin Luther King? Merely a criminal or a criminal connection operating within official structures? As was the case of a man found hanging beneath a bridge in London in June 1982. The assassins added a clever refinement to the murder. They made it look as if Roberto Calvi had committed suicide. Previously, the Pope's banker Calvi had secretly helped transfer millions of dollars to Poland in order to wage a war against communism. It was an alliance between money, God, and the United States government.
There was not an alliance, as I know. I have no knowledge. Maybe Haig has, but I have none. There was a convergence. We both had the same purpose.
Well, we stayed in close touch with the Vatican on the subject of Poland. And of course, they had a very special interest.
When Roberto Calvi's bank entered troubled waters, he tried to blackmail the Pope by sending him this letter reminding him of their joint transactions for Poland and their common secrets.
12 days later, Roberto Calvi was found dead under London's Blackfriars Bridge.
At least the assassination of Roberto Calvi left us his body as evidence.
This man disappeared as if he had never been the hero of African consciousness. There is no grave of Patrice Lumumba. Former Prime Minister, he was captured and tortured before being hidden in the jungle. His death benefited wealthy business groups. These are the last pictures of Patrice Lumumba and his murderers. Shouldn't we know who they were and who paid them?
And shouldn't we know why this man had to die as Secretary General of the United Nations?
Now, in a way that would hamper the United Nations effort.
Dag Hammarskjöld tried to implement UN principles, even when this meant acting against the interests of the colonial powers. He became troublesome.
When his UN aircraft crashed, it was described by officials as an accident.
30 years later, witnesses tell us what really happened and why right from the start, the UN was the target of powerful governments. Sometimes governments bump off not only their enemies but also their friends, such as Aldo Moro, who belonged to the inner circle of power and was captured by Italian terrorists.
I knew that Moro would die. I knew that our intransigence would lead to Moro's death.
La linea dell'intransigenza avrebbe portato all'uccisione di Moro. Questo ne ero perfettamente convinto.
If you become a victim of political assassination like Aldo Moro, somebody might be preparing your coffin instead of saving you. Somebody who's willing to ride roughshod over your body.
He was so happy, and you can feel it in this picture. See his eyes, as if he is laughing, as if he is, full of joy, full of happiness, and that was seconds, not 1 minute, seconds before he was assassinated.
The life of Egypt's president was sacrificed at the altar of religious fanaticism. It was not only fanatical belief, but also social injustice which instigated Anwar el-Sadat's murderers to kill him. The murderers of Lord Mountbatten, a member of the British royal family, were fanatical nationalists who believed they were killing in the name of justice too.
Lord Mountbatten was assassinated for being of English blood and a symbol of oppression in Ireland.
Good, right up in. Come on, put it out to the side, don't get down to the boat.
Mountbatten slowed down and was about to cut the engine to bring the boat to a halt. Meanwhile, from on shore, he was being watched by the men who intended to bring this innocent fishing trip to a brutal halt.
It was IRA terrorists who were waiting for the moment to come. 2 children died along with Lord Mountbatten. Political assassination strikes here and there. And sometimes it stalks entire families.
Just 5 years after U.S. President John F. Kennedy was killed in Dallas, his brother Robert followed. On the verge of entering the White House, Robert Kennedy walked into a trap. Somebody was waiting for him. Somebody shot him on June 5th, 1968. Being the victim of political murder can mean the end of a human life and endless mourning.
Eight programs featuring 8 assassinations of historic dimensions.
8 programs trying to understand the logic of political killings.
8 documentaries made by outstanding European directors, all focusing on a world of oppression, distress, and hatred.